So as I said, I didn't really want to kind of show you spraying as this is a rapid video build, but here it is, all nicely sprayed up. And this is the reason why I like using the Mr. Hobby colours, the acrylic stuff, is you know, I think the colours really do match up rather well. The nose, you know, as I say, you know, you can spray that pretty much whatever colour you want, something around about sort of like that colour. And we've got our nice red tail here, which you know, should make this look really nice. But as I say, no need to really sort of harp on about this. I do want to try and see if I can get this on camera and sort of show you the nice air intake we've got here. Hopefully, as you can see, it's all nice and seamless and looking nice and white in there, and hopefully you can see how, you know, it would be quite a focal point in which, you know, you can so clearly, so easily see inside that air intake. You really do want to take care of those seam lines. Right, so that's basically the aircraft. One thing I wish I did actually while I was going through the spraying process is I left off our tail here. And what I did is I sprayed it up separately, then I glued it on afterwards. It didn't quite glue 100%, right, which I like to have a nice good seal all around where it glues in. So I wish I kind of glued that in the first place, but I mean, it'll do okay anyway. But a little tip for you there, just glue on the actual tail. They did design actually in the instructions the tail to be one of these things that you can take off and put on at your leisure, i.e. if you're transporting it to shows or something like that, you can take off the tail. And I think that's the whole point of the fuel tanks as well. Underneath, you know, we've got all these kind of rubbers that allows you to kind of, you know, take off the tail, you know, take off our stabilizers here and the fuel tanks, you know, so you can take it apart a bit. But by doing that, I mean, you end up with like a little tiny gap all around. It just looks nicer and better if you just glue it into place. So that's the spraying side there. I just want to quickly show you a bit of masking with regards to missiles, and a little bit of a tip on missiles as well. When it comes to missiles, right, your fins and the noses, okay, they're not black. I used to spray them black, but they're not actually black. They are actually bare metal. And what I like to use exhaust by Model Master. It's a nice dark colour because they look black, but it's a dark metal going on there. So that's why I've sprayed our nose and our fins there. And then what we want to do is we want to mask them up, because I know it's a bit of a daunting task and everything to mask up each and every one of these fins, and what I used to do, I used to spray the whole thing whatever colour and then sort of paintbrush on the fins. Doesn't look the best. The best way to do it is mask it up, but as I say, I mean, it is a bit of a daunting task to mask it up. But you know, if you get the hang of it, they are kind of all the same, and they can be kind of easy. It's just there's so many. So get in a nice little length of our 6mm Tamiya masking tape. We put it in the middle and we butt it up as close as we can to from the fin to the actual missile. Right. Then we turn it over, and then we get the rear and we bend it, but we bend it at a bit. Oh, that didn't quite work. Hold on. Let's pull that back. Right, we bend it, but we bend it at a bit of an angle. Hold on, I'm not quite bending it at an angle. Let's remove that. Quickly start again. You know, don't worry if you have to start again. I mean, I'm not making this look easy right now. But again, we rip it off. Right, we butt it up as close as we can. Turn it over. We get the rear one and we bend that at an angle like so. Then we get the front one, and then this one is where we butt it up as nice as we can, as you can see just there. Turn it over again, get this last little bit, and again bend that at an angle like so, and that there gets us all nice and neatly masked. Right, so just quickly show you that again. we will rip off a piece, we will butt it up to the fin and the missile, right, nicely butted up, turn it over, get the rear, bend it over, but bend it over at an angle, turn it round, that you're comfortable with, get the front, and then the front one we just nicely butt that up like so. Yeah, and whatever's left over, turn it over again, turn that over, but try and turn it over at an angle like so. So hopefully, as you can see there, we're all nicely masked up. I'll do the other two off camera. Yes, it is a time consuming process, but you do get there in the end. Just getting some 10mm Tamiya masking tape now. Just want to quickly talk about our nose end of our AMRAAMs here. A lot of people will kind of spray this white, but it's not really white, it's kind of like a ceramic kind of colour, and I like to use 71 119 white grey by Model Air Vallejo. Really nice colour. It's not quite white, it's an off-white, and that is kind of like the real colour for that. You could also use something like our H3111, sorry, 311, and that's FS36622. You could also use that, or something similar to just a nice off-white. Right, and what we want to do here now is we just want to kind of, where we have our recess panel line, we just want to mask this up as well. Now, I did go off and I did put a nice gloss coat onto this before I've done any masking. I like to put a nice little gloss coat on when I do any kind of masking, because I just like to make sure that our paint that was sprayed on is nicely sealed in, locked in, and dry. It needs to, you want it to really kind of dry rock hard and cure, because you know, you put masking tape on bare paint or something, you're gonna have these possible problems of it ripping up and all this kind of stuff. So leave it to dry, and you know, a nice little gloss coat which locks it in and seals it in, and you should be able to nicely mask up all nice. And the same goes for our sidewinders as well, only in this case I what was it, I used the 3mm jammy dog tape, and I just, as you can see the blue there, I just masked up that there, and then I know it looks a bit of a mess, but basically the rest of the masking tape there by Tamiya has just covered up the rest of the nose. You know, it's just nice and simple there. So what I want to talk about now is cooking your models, getting them nice and dry. So as I say, I wanted to talk about cooking models. Now what I've just done here is I've got a load of weapons and stuff, and I've glossed them over, but actually it's nicely in the morning, so basically I've got the time to do deckling all day today, but as I say, I've glossed up all these weapons, and the thing is, when you put a gloss on these, you want to make sure that you give, you know, the gloss at least like 24 hours for it to properly dry, go rock hard and cure. Now when I say cure, I don't mean like, you know, these weapons are like touch dry. What I mean is it's down to the core, the whole gloss that you've put on there has properly 100% dried and cured, right? Because you can have all sorts of things like cracking, and you know, when you get the deckling solutions on there, it can make all sorts of kind of reactions and stuff. If it's properly nice and dry, you shouldn't really have many problems with deckling, or even going into the weathering stages, or putting different coats, different colours down. It just eliminates all these problems of cracking if you make sure it's properly dry. But as I say, you know, sometimes you might want to just make sure that your paint or your gloss is nice and dry, so that you know you're safe to proceed to the next colour. Or just maybe you've finished like I have this morning, just finished the glossing, but you could actually do some deckling today, but you can't because you've got to wait for the paint to dry. So this is where we talk about cooking. Now it's kind of a bit crude what I've done, because The problem is I've looked on the internet and I have found nothing in which a modeler could go off and buy some sort of a proper, you know, paid for sort of cooking box, shall we say, for you know, drying paint off nice and rapidly. So basically I've had to go off and kind of make one myself. So let's zoom out a bit and I'll just kind of play cameraman just a little bit here. And I know this looks extremely crude, but there is sort of like my cooking box, so to speak. Now how it works, first off, is to get paint to dry, you know, keep it simple. It's just two things that you need paint to dry, and without these two things, paint can literally not dry. The first thing you need is some sort of airflow and heat. Right, if you don't have enough heat, it won't dry, and basically the same goes for some sort of an airflow as well. So what you want is in this box, this nice sealed box, so that we don't get dust going in here, right? Because if we get dust going in there, you're going to get all sorts of bits on your paint, and we don't want that. So we want airflow going through here and heat. Now when it comes to paint drying, anything below 10 degrees C, right, will not dry basically. So if you are leaving your models overnight to dry, and if they are in a room that hasn't got, say, some sort of ventilation in there, and overnight it drops below 10 degrees C, and then you come the next morning to, say, do deckling or weathering, and you have problems, that is probably because your paint has not properly dried and cured. It's just, while it was below 10 degrees C, has just not done any drying whatsoever. So what we can do, and what this little bit is about, and to be honest with you, I might do a proper tutorial on this, how to sort of make these and everything, but the basic principle is, you know, we've got a box here, we're keeping it nice and covered, nice and sealed in, and where the airflow is going to be coming in, let's just turn this around, right? All I've done is I've gone off and I've made my own little filter, just to kind of block out some of the big debris, and this is just scouring pads, basically taped onto the side of, well, I've cut out a hole in the box and I've just taped on some scouring pads. I know it's very crude, but you know, the principle is to kind of keep out the big bits of dust and debris and hairs or cat hairs or anything like that. What we do, we've got a nice lid in here, right? All the tin foil in here, it's like reflecting heat to kind of keep the heat in and all that kind of stuff. We put it in the box like so, and then just in the corner here I have a thermostat, a thermometer, so I can check and see what temperature it is. Now in this box it's about 15 degrees C right now, so we want to bring up that temperature and we want to get some airflow, and we've also got some holes just at the back here so that the air that's being pumped in here has got somewhere to escape, so it flows across the box, across our F-16 that's in here, and we know what temperature it is. So by putting the lid on, so you can lock it in, lock in the heat, lock in the temperature, and what we can do now, a bit of a warning here, right? This is a crude setup. It's something that I've set up. Now I don't want anyone's houses or workshops kind of burning down or anything like that. So you do this at your own risk, right? So don't come complaining to me that you've burnt the place down. You know, you do this at your own risk. I do recommend you don't leave this heater on if you're not in the room. If you do this, and as I say, you do it at your own risk. And plain and simply, what we can do is turn the heat on, and I'll just put it right up against our scouring pads here, and that is now blowing air through the box. And if I put my hand the other end, I can actually feel that there is air coming out the back, as I say, where we've put some holes there for the air to flow through and come out. And then what we can do is I'll just switch the camera off right now, and we'll come back when that thermometer has like risen in temperature. So the fan has now been on for about 10 minutes. Let's just turn this off. Right, let's open up, let's look at our thermometer. Right, So here we go, looking at the thermometer, we have now hit, hopefully as you can see, about 40 degrees C. So it's really got nice and hot in there, and it's had that nice airflow. And what I've found with this particular setup is that it can get nicely between 40, maybe topping out at 50 degrees C, and the airflow going through is enough so that between about 15 to 30 minutes your paint is properly cured, gone rock hard. You know, 15 to 30 minutes is like the equivalent of leaving your model to dry for like 24 hours. So hopefully you can see the benefits of using this system. You know, the time is just drastically, massively reduced on the whole drying time. So as I say, I've just glossed this up in the morning. I can now crack on with deckling rather than wait until tomorrow. And not only that, I do find as well it also helps just generally with your whole spraying, because what I did with this F-16 is I primed it, then I cooked it, I then like sprayed the bottom, cooked it, I then sprayed on our side colour here, cooked it, sprayed on our top colour, cooked it. You know, every layer, every stage of spraying, I just whacked it in here for about 15 to 30 minutes to cook it, so that way I know that each and every layer of paint is properly dried, gone rock hard and cured. Because I know for beginners in spraying, I've seen a few pictures on our forum as well where people have had cracking, and that is down to just plain and simply your paint hasn't had enough time to dry. And sometimes you might think, crikey, it's had enough time to dry, I've left it for 24 hours, but you might not be realising that where you're leaving it to dry doesn't have enough airflow and is below 10 degrees C maybe overnight, so it's just not actually drying. I mean, paint, if left below 10 degrees C, literally can just never dry, basically. So you want to try and keep that in mind, and hopefully that's kind of helped you understand, for those of you who've had problems with cracking, or you put decals down and you know you can have like I don't know if you've ever put a decal down and where you've put the solution it seems to kind of lighten up, patchy. I mean, that's down to like the gloss not drying, stuff like when you put down your wash or a sludge wash onto your model and the wash seems to kind of eat through to the paintwork, that's because it hasn't dried either. You know, all these problems you're potentially having, hopefully you're understanding airflow, temperature, making sure your model, your paintwork has had that time to properly dry and cure, not touch dry, properly cure and go rock hard to the core. Now this setup here is very crude, and as I say, you know, you do this at your own risk. There are different setups you can do. You can use bigger boxes, you can use, I know you can get these heat light, these lamps, where the light, the bulb in there actually heats up and warms up the model, and then maybe you could just have a simple fan just blowing air through whatever box or whatever it is you want to do. You know, it's kind of up to you how you kind of go about it. It is really sort of like for you to kind of sort of, you know, sort of come together and sort of mech something up. It really is just a nice crude sort of task for you to kind of go on, but as I say, do it at your own risk. But it'd be kind of nice actually to see some of you guys kind of tackle something like this and kind of give your ideas on, you know, heat flow going through your model and what kind of like cooking box you could kind of come up with. So basically now that is all this nicely cooked and ready for deckling. So if there's any problems with deckling, I'll let you know. In the tradition of rapid video builds, I have just basically gone rapid through the whole deckling process, and I've not had to turn the camera on once because there just is no problems. These decals here are looking rather nice. As you can see, that tail is looking very nice, but it's all just nice, simple, easy, flat decals going on. Flat pieces, there's no trying to wrap it around curves or any bumps that are like very kind of problematic or anything like that. I mean, it is just nicely going on flat areas, and it's been really easy. Now I know they are Tamiya Japanese decals, they are a bit thick, but just getting it out off camera. Micro Solon set didn't work too well. I mean, it would work, but you're gonna have to kind of keep putting that microsol on and on and on and on and on, you know, to get it to finally conform. But you know, our Mr. Mark range and Decklin solutions here, you know, work very, very well with our Tamiya Japanese decal. So no real problems with the Decklin. So I'm not gonna harp on too much. So let's kind of start looking into like a bit of nice weathering. So let's get back to our focus of this video build is resin. Now we're all sprayed up, we're all cut up, we haven't glued, there's no need to run off and glue yet, but what we want to do, let's just put this in right, we just need to find the little notch that's in here for it to fit. Hold on. There we go, that pops in nicely. Now what we're going to do, we're going to weather this up, and we've got a nice spray pattern going on in there, hopefully, as you can see. But what we want to do now, we want to get out a sludge wash. Now in this case I'm using the sludge wash that you can buy, which is by Flurry Models, and it's the dark dirt. You can mix up your own. There is a video on the website, and all we simply do, give it a nice quick shake. Nice old paintbrush, right, any paintbrush will do, and what we simply want to do is just plaster this inside here. Make sure we get absolutely everywhere with it. We don't have to be shy, we don't have to worry about putting too much down. Right, this is all about just whacking it everywhere, right? No worries, no problems. Right, absolutely everywhere. Get inside there as much as you can, and then you want to leave it to dry for about half an hour.